welcome everybody to the latest in our series of London interviews. And we're delighted today to welcome René Kofod-Olsen, who's CEO at the V.Group. And René is a seasoned industry leader with nearly 30 years of experience in global shipping. He was CEO of Topaz Energy and Marine from 2012 until its successful divestment in 2019. And earlier, he held senior roles at AP Moller Maersk for nearly 16 years, including CEO of Svitzer in Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. René currently serves on the board of BW Offshore as an independent non-executive director and also holds an advanced management program diploma from Harvard Business. So René, always a pleasure to see you. I'm seeing you here on our system today and also to hear you. And welcome to London Interview, sir.
Thank you, Sean. Very pleased to being here with you.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing you also during LISW, which is only a matter of 50 days or so away. It's getting closer and closer. And I know you're speaking at a number of conferences, including the International Ship Owning and Ship Management Summit, which would be great with all the other CEOs of the ship management companies. There's a lot happening in shipping and ship management at the moment. I mean, when I talk to the younger element coming into the industry, I'm a little bit jealous because there's a lot of excitement and opportunity ahead as shipping starts to embrace things like digitalisation and new fuels and change and new opportunities. Really, what are your sort of views on how the industry is at the moment and how you see it developing, René? What do you think are the sort of areas to focus in on and what are the opportunities?
Yeah, thanks, Sean. I share your excitement. You were kind enough to do a rendition of what I have done, and I can't even believe that it is more than 30 years. But I was obviously on the owner side, so you can call it my client side. And that has given me the perspective of what are we actually as an industry solving for in ship management, and why is it that this is a great alternative? And fundamentally, I think that the world is changing rapidly in terms of pressure points for ship owners and the whole shipping industry, whether it be conflicts that we need to build into our supply chain solutions, whether it be for resources or whether it be for sanctions and compliance. And there will be new frameworks coming in. You mentioned digitalisation, which is obviously omnipresent, all the way from the sort of modest systems of managing assets all the way up to the AI revolution that we are seeing unfolding, whether it be private or professional. So from my perspective, Sean, I think being able to be an alternative at scale is something that shipping needs. It's something that we know exactly how we are solving for the ability to do things cost efficient and scale. And I think that's how I see this industry growing. And we can probably come back to it. What are some of the main elements later in our conversation? I'm sure we do. You're a curious person. But that's how I see it. It's scale. It's the sort of omni changes that are happening every single day.
And when you talk with the industry and the market and the potential owners and your client base, and you're one of the largest, most prominent shipping and maritime services providers out there, what are their expectations? Because, running a shipping company, ship owning company, or a chartering operation, or whatever, there's a lot of things that will keep you awake at night. Safety and, as you said, with compliance, but also with the geopolitics and what have you. What are their concerns? What are their expectations? What do they want a company like V.Group to come along and say, don't worry, we're dealing with that and we've got that covered? What are they saying to you?
Well, I mean, first of all, they want to sleep well at night. So and we all do. So I think it's the ability to be a counterparty strength to the people that we work with. And our platform is obviously a very diverse platform. So you can go for the entire A to Z solution if you opt in to have that. Or you can pick a service that you find that our platform particularly do well and then work with us on that. And so we are very humbled by the fact that we actually work with the whole maritime industry. So our services platform, they work with, call them traditional competitors on the shipping side. And it actually goes really well. So I think if you work with us, we are an alternative, whether it be on the services side or whether it be on the shipping side. But the most important is to be a counterparty strength, not a counterparty risk for our clients. If you look at the shipping side, which I think is where your question comes from, it is about sleeping well at night. It is about ensuring that the assets always available to trade. It's to ensure that the assets crewed with the best possible, well-trained, up-to-date seafarers around the world. It is to ensure that the client's client sees this setup as a counterparty strength as well and not a counterparty risk. So knowing your clients' clients, knowing the pressure points that they may have, knowing the regulatory bodies in the jurisdictions that we are sailing to. So we are having a vast amount of work being done with those. And you can say from an industry perspective, it could be the right ship importance, it could be the OCIM's importance, and of course from a seafarer's perspective, the ITF and so on. But it is also working with the big coast guards in the bigger sort of geographies around the world. So I think from our perspective, it is the commercial uptime that is important, safety of the asset, being compliant, and ensuring that our clients can focus on what their strategies has to deliver for them. And I think that's what we do, and that's what we do every single day.
You talk about the sort of compliance side, you talk about the regulation side. There's a lot happening on there as well. What sort of do your clients as well, does the market have concerns about the way that the regulation is moving? Is it moving too slowly? Is it moving too quickly? There's a lot of issues on fuels at the moment. There's a lot of issues on seafarer quality. You've got a shortage of seafarers coming up as well. How do we square that circle? What's the sort of concerns on that? Because there's a lot of uncertainty, isn't there? The one thing that's certain in shipping at the moment is a lot of uncertainty on things like fuels, for instance.
Yeah, that's right. And that's actually why I talk so much about scale, Sean. I think it is incredibly difficult to be a smaller ship owner, a startup ship owner, and having to do all these parts of the processes yourself. It's almost impossible. And I think 20, 25 years ago, it was completely different. Today, it's changing every single day. I even think the regulators are not absolutely sure what is happening tomorrow. And some regulators are setting up processes for one thing. Other regulators that are their neighbors are setting up for another thing that may seem to be in the same category, but it is governed completely different. And we all have to sort of find our way through that forest of new things. And I have sympathy for the regulators, the governments trying to find solutions, whether it be around sanctions, whether it be around regulations on decarbonization and so on and so forth. But fact of the matter is that you can do desktop situations and then things has to be unfolded live. And we have to do with assets that are sailing all over the world. I don't have to tell you that more than 90% of global trade is sort of handled by ship and that whole supply chain. And therefore, it is precious for the world economy. And I don't think we have gotten it right yet. I don't know when we will get it right as an industry and with the governments that are sort of regulating the new schemes. But we certainly have to find solutions to navigate through that. And so that's what we are doing. That's what our industry is doing, all the other ship managers as well. So we have all set up our own teams, large or small, depending on what companies you're thinking about. And we are doing that. We have a massive compliance team sitting and doing every single day vettings and checking the checker and so on and so forth. We are doing that to ensure that we remain a counterparty strength, as I mentioned before. Because there's risk in anything when it comes to ship and all the parties involved. I think from a compliance with whether it be EU fuels or EU ETSs or so forth, we have another department sitting and doing that, coming up with solutions and products that can support the clients, ensuring that they get their credit scored, ensuring that we are optimizing the route, ensuring that we manage to set up the accounts for the clients and manage them and so on and so forth. So, I mean, it's very resource heavy from our side. And that's why I come back to the fact that if you do not have a business that at scale can manage this, and if you don't have a digital platform that is agile and able to manage this, if you don't have partnerships with the right sort of features into that digital platform, you could end up being found wanting in terms of not having the solutions for the clients. And then we're all at risk.
Yeah, I think this is interesting where, ship management now is fully regarded as a highly professional sector. I mean, it struggled with that for many, many years. There's a lot of competition coming in. A lot of the Greek owners were managing each other's ships as, smaller managers and what have you. You've now got to be bigger. You've now got to have that scale, as you say. But still, third-party management, second-party management, however you want to regard it, still only accounts for about 20% of the world fleet.
At best. So that was probably one of the most shocking things for me when I came into this, Sean, because I always knew ship management as an alternative, and I always sort of regarded them from the side. But I never knew that the penetration was this low. And so there are probably many reasons for that. But currently, the way I see it is that this industry is definitely a great alternative. As I mentioned earlier, in bigger scale or in smaller scale, we need to come up with service solutions. But I also believe that historically it has been looked potentially down upon, and I'm sure there are many, many reasons for that. I will not profess that I know all those reasons. If I look at what I would describe as the tier one ship managers, the ones that we are certainly looking at in terms of who are the formidable other competitors in the industry, everybody is doing a great job. Everybody wants to do a great job. They want to do it the right way. They want to do it in the compliant way and so on. And I think that means a lot and should mean a lot for the penetration and growth on that, call it 20% or 18% if you look at my numbers. So I think that's incredibly important that we show us ship managers of repute, let me call them, that we are that alternative. We are a counterparty strength. We are not a counterparty risk. We are 100% compliant with everything that a ship owner would be themselves, and we can manage the supply chain at scale. That's really what we are there to do. I'm the steward of ensuring that we will run a company that any top tier ship owner would do themselves. For me, that's what I would never have entered this company. I would never have entered this industry if I didn't feel that I could, together with all my colleagues, make a difference that matters, Sean. And that it would be done in the right way and the right professional way. That's what I stand guard of. And I'm sure that I speak for the rest of the top tier ship managers.
I mean, when you look at the, as you rightly say, ship managers are now should not be regarded as a cost. They should be regarded as a value because they are driving value into the bottom line. Looking at the role of managers, management companies, service providers moving forward, I can only guess that it's changing because when you've got things like tariffs, when you've got things like geopolitical issues, when you've got things like the closing of the Red Sea, when you've got tax on ships, when you've got a shortage of seafarers, when you've got all of these issues, the John Fredericksons of the world or the big ship owners who will benchmark their fleets with 4 or 5 managers will come along and say, René, what do I do? You can't really turn around and say, well, actually, it's not in your contract for me to give you that information. Your role is changing. Could you give us an idea of how you see that altering? And then bringing in, because a lot of the big managers are diversifying into other areas, as you've been alluding to as well. And that's adding value in as well. But how do you see the industry changing, René?
It's a great question, Sean. And when I look at our client engagement, and you mentioned John, we have many other clients that behave as close to us as that particular group does. I think we are brought more and more into the supply chain that I mentioned before. We have brought more and more into the decision-making process. I can see in the past when I listen to colleagues that has been in this industry for 30 years that the sort of the technical manager, that is what you were, not more, not less. That's what you do, and we will keep you in that sort of perimeter, and don't you dare branching out of that perimeter. At least from our perspective, we are having big conversations with clients. For some clients, we are brought in before they invest in assets. We are brought in to do diligence. We are brought in to do vetting. We are brought in to consider how would this fit into the fleet? How should we think about it? And so on and so forth. Are you ready to take them over completely, seamlessly, and so on and so forth? So I feel that we are brought in at a completely different level. And therefore, we are really a ship manager, which also sort of lies in the name. But I think we are much more than that. We are a true partner for the clients that understand what we can solve for. We have clients that are inviting us in to speak with their charterers. We have clients that are inviting us in to speak with their boards. And we are very happy to be doing so. And so some clients are considering doing acquisitions. We are being brought in. And then you can take the other corner of that is the services side, where some clients would say, hey, what are the services that you can deliver, which I think is your second part of the question. I think this company 25, 30 years ago started building services adjacent to their shipping services. And today they are running their own life. When we sort of charted the strategy 4 years ago, we agreed that each of those companies should only have a relevance in our portfolio if they make the boat go faster and actually makes a difference in their own right, and they have a P&L in their own right. So they should not be interdependent on the shipping side. And it was tough for some of the companies. Some we sold. By and large, all of them have their own P&L. They have their own strategy. They have their own client portfolio. Some works a lot with our shipping division. Others don't, or at least they do, but most of their clients are third-party clients and so on. So they have their own governance, they have their own CEO, and they're able to manage that. And I can understand how other people see that as an interest. I will caution the fact that we have been at this for 25, 30 years. It is not easy to start a marine service company. If it makes sense, if it is a positive contribution to shipping, why not? I think we are there to grow that 20% that you talk about, Sean. And if services can support that, absolutely. What I would say is that it must be quality over quantity. So I would hope that our services division, they will stand on their own two legs, as I mentioned to you earlier. And other companies should do the same because they create value, not just because they feel that they must do this. There got to be a reason for doing it. Otherwise, come and work with us. Or one of the other big platforms. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you can see the benefit in having a variety of other services there where you're bringing clients and then you can offer them a whole basket of other options for them. And as a result, building up your relationship with the client base and growing it.
What has been important for me when I came in was at the client's discretion. I saw some comments that, we were almost demanding. We don't. And this is my point, that if the services cannot make a difference that matters or make the boat go faster for our clients, I'm sure our clients will find another service. So we have to be competitive in everything we do. And I am the overall ambassador to ensuring that that happens. Otherwise, we hopefully get a chance in the future. And that's the marching order for all our services. And they're doing damn well. I'm pretty impressed with what they're doing and the relationship. But for me, and that comes back, Sean, to the tier one comment, I really want to emphasize it. We do everything transparently. We do everything completely lockstep with the clients. We have an ERP platform where our clients can see everything that we are spending money on their behalf on, which is important. And I think as an industry, the more of a counterparty strength, and I keep saying that word, we can become for shipping, we will just automatically be more and more of an alternative. And as an industry, subsector of the industry, we will grow because everybody knows exactly what they pay for and why they pay for it. And they can expect full transparency from us.
One thing that, and I liken actually the managers and the quality managers, the tier one managers to the class societies. I mean, you have a similar type of relationship there. You're relied on, you're doing the investing, they're doing a lot of R&D, you're investing in your crew, you're investing in the services. And there's a lot of collaboration within the class societies and certainly through something like IAX as well. The managers did a tremendous job during COVID. Just before I come on to the point of my question, you had the three legs of the Maritime Labour Convention, which was the member states, you had the owners and the managers, and you had the seafarers. The member states shut their borders. And the owners and managers worked together to repatriate. And you collaborated, you chartered planes together, you worked to make sure you could move everybody's crew around. Is there enough collaboration within the ship management big guns? Because your voice has got to be heard, not only with the regulators and the IMO and people like that, but also with the owners and the owner associations, direct as well as the ICS. Is there enough collaboration going on? Is there opportunity for more? What are your thoughts on that?
It's a great question, Sean. And I wish I had a real straight answer beyond the fact that no. And I think commensurate with my comment on the tier one, and as I said, I've been in this industry for 4 years now. I certainly think that we ought to grow up, and the tier one companies need to take a little bit more responsibility as a group. I don't think that has happened. It is a little bit fragmented. There is a consortium under Intermanager, and they're doing everything they can. But I see a fragmentation, and it is something that we must work on, I believe. I will confess that it is not something that I have spent enough time on, because I think it was very important that if you call yourself a tier one operator, you must live up to that. So that has been my sole focus. But I do think that we must take more responsibility, and I probably need to take more responsibility as the steward of V.Group to ensuring that the tier one managers are the leading pack and we are setting standards. You'll recall that, and you mentioned that I was in offshore for quite some time, and I was deeply involved in trying to find measurements that was not a competitive situation, that we would say, why are we not sharing, for instance, our safety records with each other? Why would we compete on that? We would compete on ensuring that everybody came home safe, but why would we not share? our safety standards because it can only make the industry safer. So I was working a lot through the various organizations in offshore, and I think we managed to do a lot together with the oil majors and so on, and the other big sort of shipping companies. I remember I worked very, very close with Quentin Neen from Tidewater and so on to trying and ensuring that we set some industry standards that are a little bit more brave and a little bit more aggressive, because it will better the whole industry down the line. And maybe we ought to be a little bit more, as a tier one group, clear on what is it that we want to be measured on as an industry and come up with that ourselves. So those are some of the thoughts I have shown. But I will confess that there is much, much more work to be done. And yeah, that is certainly aspects that we will keep pushing.
Wanted just to touch a little bit on seafarers, then talk about London, the week itself, and maybe London as a cluster. Seafarers always at the centre of everybody's thoughts and attention every day, really. I mean, when I came in this industry, God, all those decades ago, the first thing I started writing about was applied to seafarers and how the shortage and all the rest of it. Still have it. It's still there. What are your concerns or what are your thoughts? Because the seafarer of the future is changing. Shipping has always regularly been criticised for not doing a very good marketing job and attracting in people. It's not very good at it. It's because it's very fragmented. There's a whole bunch of reasons for that. But you need to attract in the young and the tech savvy, and the whole job description of a seafarer is changing. What's your strategy and philosophy on that and investing for the future? What are your thoughts?
I believe that we probably will have enough seafarers in the future as well. And I will qualify why I'm saying what I'm saying. We generally have a growing youth population of the world and so on. And yes, there will be changes in maybe the demography, where they are coming from and so on and so forth. But I think it is up to us and the other platforms to ensuring that we have enough seafarers coming through. Now, it's not enough just to have enough seafarers. You have to have enough educated seafarers, motivated seafarers who are willing to stay in the industry subsequently and can see that there is a career path here for me. I will go and get a great education at sea, and then I have more or less a chance to go and work for a ship manager or client of a ship manager, or wherever you want to be in the shipping cluster. I think that's very important for all of us. So the training part of it, I think we are probably in luck that the sort of lack of intensity on the sort of satellites over the waterways of the world, which is 71%, has been poor, very poor. That is being solved for with the low orbit satellites, with the whole mesh of satellites being built. And therefore, you will have Starlink and other products coming on board the ships, and you will be able to bring more of the expectations from a 25 seafarer onto the ships. That also means that you can put training completely different. Now, you and I grew up in a classroom training setting. We grew up in even what we are doing here is novel. That was what it was. The seafarers today, this is what they expect. And so they are embracing technology at a completely different pace than we are. And technology is embracing our industry at a completely different sort of understanding that we are. So I'm not concerned about being able to train our seafarers, retrain our seafarers, give them good ideas, give them access to speak to family and friends and doing their bank transfers and so on online. And I actually think that they will teach us how we can work better on board. They will teach us how we can do things more safely on board. And they will teach us how they can make themselves ready for a job on shore subsequently. I think it is very important that we embrace that digital revolution. We embrace everything that AI can do for us, but particularly the connectivity. I also feel, Sean, that we must be more innovative when it comes to shipbuilding and working with the class societies and so on, because life on board the ships are changing. When we did safety stand downs and so on in the old days, it was all meeting in the mess room, and then we had a conversation about X, Y, Z. Today, when people are finished with their shift on board, they go to their cabin, and they have good reasons for discussing with their family or looking at their messages and whatever they're doing. But we got to rethink this. We got to find a gathering point again. We got to get the social aspects of being on board a ship right again. And no, we may have to change the layout of the ships. We may have to change the way we do things with the newer seafarers. We must introduce more females, and many of us have projects in terms of that. So I am actually very optimistic, but I am optimistic for the people who can do this at scale, who can educate at scale, who can promise a job. When our seafarers from our pool, Sean, they sign off, they know they have a job lined up already. Everything is in their machine. Everything is on their phone, in the app. They know that. They can see what trainings they can go and get and so on, and where they can get them if they can't get them through the mobile phone. So long story short, I am very optimistic. I'm generally an optimistic person. I'm very optimistic about this. It demands hard work. It demands that we invest in our seafarers differently and that we talk to the industry differently in terms of what is needed in the future. Finally, I will say, the jobs will be so interesting because if you imagine the ships of the future, even the ships that are being built today, the technology on board the ships, the engine rooms, incredible. And so the education is high. The connection with the shore is high. The ability to go and work with all the advancements that you have on the communication front is really amazing. So my prediction is that we will manage this, but it demands a lot of investment, not only in able bodies, but investment in how we manage our colleagues that are coming on board.
Yeah, because I think even if you look at how the younger generation, I've got young daughters and I've got grandchildren, they everything revolves around the phone and the mobile, app or whatever it is, But you're exactly right. You've got on board ship, you've got to get back to that community aspect, the spirit and what have you. And it's nice, actually, a lot of ships now have gyms on board and there's a real bit of a focus now on fitness, which is great,
Correct.
And that's always a good area for people to congregate and to talk and what have you. We're now coming, as I said, 50 days, 48 days or so to London International Shipping Week. Thank you very much again for being a sponsor and coming on board. It's really, really important getting companies like yourselves because, bringing in that thought leadership and that blue sky thinking as well. And that will contribute significantly to the success of the week. So thank you very much for that, René and the team there. How important is something like a London International Shipping Week, do you think? Just get your sort of views on it. I mean, before we came on air, we were talking a little bit about clusters and what have you. London is a maritime services cluster, feeds into all the other ones around the world, what clusters can't do without each other, etc., etc. But there's a lot of opportunities there for London, without a doubt. What are your thoughts? And how does sort of London International Shipping Week fit into that as far as the V.Group is concerned?
Thanks, Sean. And we, if I just think back at last LISW and you had your gala dinner, I had to try and carve my way through all the black suits. So I can certainly tell you that everybody comes and supports. And I have a feeling that this week will be even grander. So that's kudos to you and the team. London has historically been the shipping cluster, if you will. And I think today, maybe in a different way than it was 100 years ago, is a shipping cluster for all of us. And I think the fact that we are coming and we are happy to be coming, and we all have our evenings set up around your grand sort of week and so forth, that means that people find it important. They're investing in it. So for me, that's not a surprise, Sean. We are having a great presence in London. We have an office there, as you know, and I come there very, very frequently. And whenever I come, there's always clients or clients' clients or anything part of sort of the shipping community that you would meet with. And I think that's not going to change anytime soon. I'm quite, as a bystander to everything that goes on in Europe right now, I'm positive on it because I have seen a lot of investment going outside Europe. And when I say Europe, I don't talk about EU, I talk about Europe. And so I take UK into that. If I look at Singapore, if I look at Dubai or other big maritime clusters outside Europe, a huge amount of investments has gone in. And I think Europe and its politicians ought to reflect on how do we protect what historically was the only place for a maritime cluster was really Europe. This is where most of this was coming from. Most of the big European countries with history in shipping has very few seafarers left. So, but they still have young populations. So are there tasks to be done there? Maybe on a taxation. Maybe you do a completely different setup for seafarers and so on. You have a different understanding of that. How do you attract more investments into Europe that is linked to shipping? I think there is a rethinking of that. And maybe you channel some of all the resources from an EU perspective that they get from the ETSs and so on not only to decarbonization initiative, but to general shipping and reinvesting in it. And obviously London and UK will have their own views on that. I think that'll have to happen. Now, a lot of the European countries want to reinvest in their navies. Where are you going to build them? And so that also have to be rethought about. And maybe there will have to be a completely different regalvanization of the European youth. I think when I grew up, a lot of people went to sea, a lot of people worked their way up into the shipping community. Today, I'm not so sure. And so I do think that we have a lot of branding to be doing in Europe for this. And London International Shipping Week is part of it. So maybe you guys, Sean, think about, well, how can we call upon the politicians in a huge event like this to understand that they must look at the whole value chain in shipping and not take for granted that shipping will always be a big maritime cluster in Europe.
Well, René, I just want to say thank you so much indeed for your time today. And just before we sign off, just to say to the listeners that René will be appearing at the International Ship Owning Ship Management Summit on Thursday, September the 18th, alongside a basket of other CEOs from ship management companies and some owners and what have you. So it's a very, very strong debate there on issues like AI and on managing the winds of change in global shipping. And so we'll touch on a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about today. So I look forward to definitely hearing your comments there, René. But I just want to say thank you very much indeed for today, for your time and also for your support for LISW. And yeah, we're going to be bumping into each other, no doubt, a number of times during the week, but it's going to be great. But René, thank you very much indeed, sir.